As the test begins, Kafka and Reno theorize that if the test was simply to see how many kaijus they can kill, using only the senses would have been enough, which means they are also evaluating candidates' actions and how they adapt and devise plans to deal with the threats using their skills. Kafka decides that they must act as backup for everyone because they are weak on offense. While on his mission, Kafka encounters a Yoju and, utilizing the knowledge gained from his cleaning experience, he stuns the Yoju using a stun grenade. He explains that the Yojus have hyper-developed sense of hearing to make up for their rudimentary eyes, making neutralizing them a lot easier once their hearing ability is taken care of. The situation seems to be going well, but suddenly, a Yoju emerges from the ground and attacks Kafka from the right flank. The attack severely injures Kafka. He attempts to stand up but can't. The kaiju is rapidly approaching to consume him. He can't use his kaiju abilities either, as it would compromise his secret. Soshiro orders the suit shield to be prepared for deployment. If the shield activates, he would be eliminated as per the rules, making him look like a loser and once again disappointing Mina. Kafka can literally see his last chance of redemption fading away right before his eyes. But suddenly, Kakoru arrives and obliterates the kaiju to save Kafka. She mocks Kafka for his clumsiness and declares that no one will become a casualty under her watch, and she will be the one to finish this exam gloriously. Following this, Kakoru proceeds to slay the kaijus right and left, leaving everyone else behind. Through the comms, Soshiro Hoshina advises Kafka to drop out, as his abnormal vital reading is suggesting multiple fractures within his body, but Kafka gets up and proclaims that he is done giving up and will not back down. Kafka asks Reno not to worry about him, and asks him to keep going forward without him. But Reno refuses to do so and assures him that he will support him no matter what. These two are going to be the best buddies for life. Accepting his support, Kafka mounts Reno's shoulders, and both march forward while shocking everyone and making Hoshina die of laughter. Kafka decides to go after Kakoru, or else she might finish the exam all by herself in a flash. Kakoru just annihilates every Yoju on her path, while going after the main Honju. Everyone tries to catch up with her, but they all are left in dust by her. Upon reaching the Honju, Kakoru tosses a grenade behind him, causing the Honju to open its mouth in pain. Utilizing this opportunity, Kakoru jumps into its gaping mouth and pummels its insides. With the collapse of the main Honju, the exam is declared over. Kafka is bamboozled by the fact that she actually finished the exam in a flash. In the war room, Hoshina and Mina mutually agree that Kakoru is indeed very strong and talented, stating they expected multiple dropouts, but everyone made it with minimal injuries. He recalls all the drones and orders the staff to provide medical assistance to the candidates. Cherishing her victory, Kakoru decides to go and tease Kafka again. But the game is not yet settled. She suddenly feels a presence behind her. She notices a mysterious humanoid kaiju standing at a distance from her. He lifts his finger and fires mysterious shots at her, piercing her chest and gravely injuring her. Meanwhile, Kafka and Reno are collapsed on the ground due to exhaustion. Despite her mockery, Kafka admits his admiration for Kakoru's talent. But as they stand up, they are shocked to witness the dead kaiju springing back to life. Due to her severe wounds, Kikaru is unable to stand up on her feet and notices the mysterious kaiju speaking to the revived Honju. As soon as it becomes aware of her, the kaiju again fires some shots at her. But Kakoru manages to use the kaiju suit muscle fibers to bind her wounds in time. Meanwhile in the war room, Soshiro Hoshina observes abnormal readings given off by the dead kaijus, as if being revived by something and also getting exponentially stronger. The revived Honju gives off a fortitude reading of 6.4. Seeing this, Hoshina concludes that only he and Mina alone can take the Honju head-on. Hoshina orders the candidates to evacuate immediately. Kakoru is enraged when she hears this, since the Honju might kill innocent people if not dealt with right here now. She recalls her father, who expects nothing less than perfection from her. Invigored by her father's words, she stands up again with a broken arm to fight, but gets jumped on by the Honju and gets slapped away, smashing against a wall. Laying there, she suddenly gets a flashback of her past. Since her childhood, she always used to ace her exams like an absolute prodigy. But, whenever she told her father about her accomplishments, he always told her to keep aiming for sheer perfection and not get hung up on one-time success alone. For the sake of this country and for the sake of her mother, she must be perfect. Returning to the present, Kakoru reinvigorates herself with her father's advice, and delivers blow after blow to the Honju, but despite this, the Kaiju keeps spamming his new regeneration perk. The Honju again smacks Kakoru, breaking the bones in both of her arms. Kakoru lays defeated. Kakoru's hope starts fading away, and she apologizes to her father for failing him. The Honju begins to charge an attack with its regenerated uni-organs. The end of Kakoru seems imminent. Kakoru is ready to accept her fate. But suddenly, out of nowhere, Kafka appears in front of her, and compliments her for her remarkable performance. Kakoru is perplexed to see Kafka there. Kafka again thanks her for buying others time to evacuate, while transforming into his kaiju form of Kaiju number 8, ready to send the Honju's ass back to the lobby. A few moments earlier, while evacuating with others, Kafka and Reno come to find out about Kakoru, who is severely injured and is pinned by the Honju. Hearing this, Reno asks Kafka what they should do, but to his shock, Kafka is already long gone to be Captain Save-A-Ho. Reno gets worried about Kafka, as he knows that to save her, he will definitely transform, even if it means risking his own life. On the battlefield, Kakoru is shocked to discover Kafka's kaiju identity. Realizing his hasty mistake, Kafka pleads with Kakoru to keep his identity a secret between them. Kafka quickly realizes that the Honju is done charging his Kamehameha and launches it at them. Kafka swiftly gets into position and deflects the attack. The attack could have been devastating for Kakoru, if not for Kafka, who deflected it. Kafka quickly starts charging up his own attack. Strange appendages emerge from his feet and embed deep in the ground to anchor him. While an organic thruster emerges on his elbow, which propels his punch to very high speed and smashes against the Honju's fist. The entire musculature and bones of the Honju gets shattered and obliterated into smithereens. In the war room, the view of the battlefield is obstructed by the rubble and debris. They detect a massive energy emission of Fortitude 9.8, which is the highest ever recorded, making the Kaiju number 8 a Daikaiju. Kakoru is shocked to witness the might Kafka possesses.
I just told you who I thought I was, a god!
The Honju's tissue goo attempts to regenerate, but fails to do so. As Kafka turns around, he again saves Kakoru from a minor Yoju. Seeing the state of Kakoru, Kafka scolds her for not prioritizing her own safety. In the meantime, Reno rejoins Kafka and scolds him for transforming out in the open. But during the mutual bitching, Kakoru collapses due to her injuries and exhaustion. A while later, the captain and vice captain arrive at the scene. Upon their arrival, Hoshina and Mina are shocked to see the splattered guts of the Honju. Through the comms, Hoshina is informed that Kafka, Reno and Kakoru have been taken to a nearby shelter. Upon seeing the mess made of the Honju, they conclude that it's beyond the capabilities of Kakoru, and find it oddly similar to a mangled Yoju corpse found 3 months earlier, coinciding with the exact day Kaiju number 8 appeared. Hoshina concludes that these two cases are definitely interlinked, given the prominent signatures. At the hospital, Reno believes that Kafka is fortunate to have suffered only minor injuries, and Kakoru is also recovering fast thanks to the use of the best Defense Force tech. While introspecting, Kafka realizes that to pursue his dreams, he has to constantly work hard and is feeling fired up about it. He feels it's all thanks to Reno, who constantly pushed him. But to their surprise, Mina had been listening to their conversation. She thanks them for rescuing the injured Kakoru. With this, she leaves the room. As she was leaving, Kafka tries to say something to her but hesitates to speak to her, and vows to talk to her only when he becomes an officer. The news of the revived Kaijus quickly spread among the masses. The mysterious Kaiju is also reading this news while sitting in a toilet. He is disappointed to know that his surprise attack didn't lead to any casualties, and concludes that the reason for his failure is probably a strong Defense Force captain. While contemplating, he receives a call telling him to get out and not to be late for work. At that moment, he starts shape-shifting into a human. He is revealed to be hiding among humans as a monster sweeper. On the result declaration day, Kafka gets paranoid about his exam results. And a while later, Kafka and Reno get their results. Kafka envisions himself and Mina fighting alongside each other. With hope in his heart, he prepares to open the letter containing his results. The decisive moment of his life is here. As the scene shifts, at the Defense Force headquarters, Mina designates Kakoru and 26 other candidates as official officers of the Defense Force. Mina thanks her for preventing any possible casualty with her remarkable feats. Despite Kakoru's boastful pride in her accomplishments, she feels a sense of sadness for Kafka. He had been the one to save her and everyone, yet he was unable to pass the exam. She was still curious about his kaiju form and had some unanswered questions. To her surprise, Kafka clumsily enters the room. It is revealed that he indeed failed the exam. However, Hoshina intervened, taking into consideration Kafka's valor, teamwork attributes, and of course the comedic relief he provides. As a result, Kafka won't be joining the force as a full officer due to his low test score, but he's been offered a position as a cadet in the DF for the time being. Kakoru is surprised and happy to see Kafka. Mina had him skip the ceremony as he was not accepted into the DF as a full officer. Proceeding with this, Mina addressed the officers. In recent times, the threat of kaijus has grown exponentially, and now the responsibility of keeping people safe lies on their shoulders. Some of them may or may not survive their first mission, but she has faith in their abilities, and asks them to trust their faith in her as their captain, and she will lead them to victory against these kaijus. As she finishes her speech, Kafka shocks everyone with his declaration that he will work hard to stand by Mina's side. But he quickly realizes that he was speaking his words out loud. As usual, Hoshina is laughing his guts out due to Kafka's clumsiness. For addressing his senior captain by her first name, Mina punishes Kafka with 100 push-ups. Hoshina finds Mina being lenient on Kafka and is taken aback when he finds her smiling. When again questioned about his decision about Kafka, Hoshina justifies his decision by saying that Kafka is best at providing comedic relief at stressful moments of this job and that he is a necessity. But this is just a cover for his suspicion about Kafka. It is revealed that, at the exact time of Fortitude 9.8 reading, the team lost track of the vitals of only one person, and that person was Kafka, not to mention his abnormally low unleashed potential. It could have been just a malfunction, but Hoshina wants to be sure about all this. From now on, he will be keeping a close eye on Kafka's ass. It's been 2 months since the induction ceremony, and Reno have been constantly grinding his marksman skills. In this short time, he managed to unleash 18% of his potential. Hoshina is impressed by Reno's improvement. There seems to be a developing rivalry going on between Reno and Furuhashi. Furuhashi unleashes 20% of his potential, but to leave them in the dust, Kakoru unleashes a massive 55% of her potential. She mocks them for being weak compared to her, even if they combine their scores. There seems to be a healthy rivalry sprouting among the group. But when it comes to Kafka, thanks to his best efforts, he manages to increase his potential to 1% and eagerly shares this with Kakoru, given how proud he feels about it. But Hoshina reminds him that, at this rate of growth, he will get fired after 3 months for not meeting Defense Force standards. Later that evening, the boys' group is in the bathhouse. Kafka is relaxing in the bath, while Reno and Furuhashi are engaged in a bicep measuring contest. Observing their competition, Kafka decides to join in and boasts about his physique built through real manual labor. However, he is teased for having a dad bod. But when Kaguragi enters the bath, he settles the physique debate once and for all. After things calm down, the boys inquire about each other's reasons for joining the Defense Force. Furuhashi was once saved by Mina, and since that day, he made her his idol and strived to become a kaiju hunter too. The others also accept that Mina is indeed their idol too and are motivated by her. However, everyone is left shocked when Kafka reveals that he and Mina are childhood friends, who promised each other to join the Defense Force after a certain incident. Upon hearing this, they express the desire to know more about them in detail. A while later, Kakoru exits the bathhouse and discovers that all the boys, except Reno, have overheated and collapsed, due to their deep focused conversation about Mina. Later that night, Kafka is deeply engrossed in his studies and recalls Hoshina's stern warning about the possibility of him being kicked out. Seeing his intense focus, Hoshina commends his dedication and inquires if it's because of Mina, as he knows for sure it is, given that all conversations in this dorm are monitored. Kafka accepts Hoshina's reasoning and expresses his desire to stand by Mina's side. Upon hearing this, Hoshina asks if he plans to steal his spot, to which Kafka hesitantly agrees. Seeing him so motivated, Hoshina allows him 2 extra hours to work on himself, but states that he won't let go of his spot so easily. While leaving, Hoshina gives Kafka a final piece of advice: not to become too friendly with his fellow troops, as in this job, anyone can be taken away by fate at any time. At midnight, while everyone else was resting, the alarms for a kaiju attack blare off. Hoshina commands all the troops to prepare for their first real mission. Shortly after, the troops are transported in a military truck to a temporary forward operating base. During the journey, Kokoro reflects on her conversation with Reno and Kafka regarding the Kaiju 8 form. She agrees to keep Kafka's Kaiju identity a secret because revealing it could lead to him losing his job or, worse, becoming the subject of dangerous experiments. Although Kokoro also issues a warning: if he were ever to pose a threat to humanity, she would be the first to pull the trigger on him. As they reach the temporary FOB, they are astonished by the massive size of the Kaiju. The mission begins at 4 a.m. A safety perimeter has been established around the contested area, within which the Kaiju must be neutralized to minimize collateral damage. Hoshina relays the Kaiju's location to the troops and assigns their orders. Mina's squad will handle the main Kaiju, while the remaining troops will neutralize the Kaiju spawning from the Kaiju's eggs. He warns them to be cautious, as this is a real battlefield and anything can happen here. With that, he wishes them good luck and sends them off to their mission areas. Before going, Reno and Kafka share a small chat. Kafka expresses his worry about being fired if he fails there. He is under immense tension and pressure, but despite all that, he feels amped up to face the challenge. Suddenly, a Yoju is spotted, rapidly approaching. Everyone swiftly takes their positions to confront the Kaiju. Kafka gets too close to the Yoju and gets yeeted away by it. Kokoro quickly steps forward, identifies Yoju's weak spots, and swiftly neutralizes them. Observing the bullet impacts, the commander is astonished to witness a rookie displaying such impressive power. Taking note of this, Kafka compliments Kokoro for her skills. She attempts to ignore him, but the suit's sensors pick up on her increased heart rate and announces it out loud. It appears Kafka might have some looser riz going on for him. On the other hand, Furuhashi successfully neutralizes a Yoju but is surprised when Reno takes down a much larger one. Reno explains that he had swapped his burst rounds for freezing rounds, allowing him to slow down the target's movements and create a larger window for attack. However, Reno remains unsatisfied with his power, as he doesn't want to force Kafka's transformation due to his own lack of competence. Meanwhile, everyone else is performing exceptionally well, impressing various commanders to the point where Commander Nakanoshima considers officially adding Kaguragi and Haruichi to her squad. Furthermore, she is charmed by their attractiveness. It seems these young men are packing some unspoken riz. Seeing others excel at Kaiju neutralization, Kafka feels as though he is burdening the team and is eager to contribute. He brainstorms ways to be useful and quickly realizes the team lacks information about Kaiju vulnerabilities. He swiftly enters the Kaiju corpse and starts dissecting it to locate its vulnerable core. Kafka successfully finds the core at the base of its neck, covered in muscle tissue. To put it simply, the core of Kaijus is similar to the spark of the Cybertronians. To his surprise, he also discovers previously unseen reproductive organs within the Kaiju, indicating that even a minor Kaiju can spawn multiple more Kaijus even after its death. Kafka shares this critical information with Hoshina, who applauds him for his brilliance and relays the information to the other troops. Kafka is pleased to have proven himself valuable to the Force, but his train of thought is interrupted by a huge energy buildup, which results in a massive round fired at the giant Kaiju, blowing off a section of its body. Hoshina reveals it to be none other than Mina, the person with whom Kafka wishes to stand shoulder to shoulder. Mina, with her massive 96% potential, charges up the attack and decimates the Kaiju once again. Kafka is bamboozled beyond infinity to see what Mina is capable of. But she doesn't stop there. She obliterates the Kaiju's ass for the fourth, and for a good measure, a fifth time, finally causing it to yield and collapse to the ground. Kafka is greatly impressed by Mina. He comments that her attacks look even more menacing and powerful from up close than on TV or through binoculars. However, Hoshina asks Kafka if he feels intimidated by the enormous strength disparity between him and Mina and knows that he would have to become as powerful as her to be capable of fighting by her side. Upon being counter-questioned by Kafka, Hoshina humbly declines Kafka's question about whether he also possesses such strength. Despite this, he reveals that he is far more skilled at dealing with medium-sized Kaijus, and his released force for projectile weaponry is relatively low compared to Mina, and prefers to use swords instead. In a demonstration of his skills, Hoshina swiftly dispatches a Yoju trying to attack him from behind, leaving Kafka in awe. Hoshina discloses that he hails from a long lineage of kaiju slayers dating back to the Muromachi period, specializing in swords. Cutting short their conversation, he commands Kafka to neutralize the numerous after-beast kaijus that are spawning from the dead kaiju. While the commanders observe the newbie troops' exhaustion from the prolonged kaiju hunting, Hoshina believes this situation will only help them evolve as hunters. And he is sure of it, as many of them will reach their limits of 20 to 30% of unleashed potential, but only Kakoru has crossed that wall, and he is hopeful that Reno might be the one who can scale that wall too. On the other hand, Furuhashi wonders why he can't keep up with Reno, despite his best efforts and intensive training. He keeps falling behind. As Reno and Furuhashi approach the kaijus, they spot a kaiju sweeper crew member sitting next to a dead kaiju within the danger zone. The cleaner mumbles about how painstakingly he loaded these kaijus with reproductive organs, only to see them being destroyed by the kaiju hunters. Suddenly, he stands up, revealing he's not an ordinary human but the mysterious humanoid kaiju from the exam day. He points his finger at them, ready to shoot.